Welcome back to another episode. Today we are discussing virtual money, freedom, and a new perspective on this topic. So, this is not going to be financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor at all. So, little disclaimer here. But I want to share my perspective, my view on what's happening right now with the transition with virtual money. So, the biggest, I would say, distortion or misconception about virtual money is that it is very controlling. And I agree to a certain extent. You know, of course, every single transaction is going to be or could potentially be monitored, obviously. So I get it. You know, it is in a way very controlling, but here's the thing. We've been having these, debit cards, like we've been having those like credit cards, debit cards for like a couple years, right? They've been here for a little while. So it's very easy for for the government to look into someone's money, especially through their personal and business account, right? Because it's virtual, they can access the account. So that's not new, but I think a lot of people are in that fear frequency now because they're like cash is basically in some places being refused. So we're really transitioning into like virtual money, but like to like 100% instead of being like half and half, which has been the case for a few years now. And so here's my new perspective on that topic. So what if freedom is actually financial literacy? Okay, so a lot of people have been, I guess, having this illusion or feeling, okay, that they've had more freedom because they could keep cash on them, and that cash would not be, would not be traceable, right? It's harder to trace like cash, like paper. So they've had this this feeling of freedom because of that or whatever. It's been giving them this type of freedom. And because we're switching to 100% virtual money, they're like, oh my God, every single one of my transaction is going to be monitored, or it can be potentially monitored, and I don't have that freedom anymore. So most of our society, so the masses, don't have financial literacy. So most people have this like 9-to-5 job. They give like a lot of taxes. Like most people give like half of their salary, but sometimes it can be, of course, a little bit less. But they're giving a big portion of it, right? And so a lot of people don't know that the laws are actually more beneficial to business owners. And a lot of people don't know that they can set up a trust fund, that they can have multiple LLCs under that trust fund. And of course, I'm not giving financial advice. I always recommend, getting a financial advisor, a tax fiscalist. But a lot of people get intimidated by this process. They think, oh my God, like a trust fund, this is for like old people. Setting up a trust fund is like, depending on where you live, of course, depending on the state, like there's a lot of different things, but it's not really that expensive. It's like, it's a trip, like it's like $1,000 in most cases, maybe $2, like depending on how complex it is. Like it's not that expensive. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not this like crazy amount, like that would be like nearly impossible. And I get it, when you have a 9-to-5, it's really hard to set money aside. But what's been, I guess, showing up or like triggering, it's been triggering this fear in people where they feel like they're being controlled. And this is rooted literally in the root chakra, which this is where we have most of our childhood wounds. So if we've had, controlling parents or any type of like childhood trauma. And we stay stuck within that root chakra, and the masses are stuck within the root because most people, you know, when you look at society, like 80% of people live paycheck to paycheck. So they don't have financial freedom, and financial freedom is connected once again to the root. So that's how I know that most people are stuck within the shadow aspect of the root. Therefore, they're not seeking knowledge. They're in survival mode. And unfortunately, when we're in survival mode, it gets, I mean, you can do it, but it gets really hard to seek out knowledge and information because you're mostly focused on day-to-day surviving, day-to-day life. Let's get food, let's pay the rent. So it gets very hard for the mind to expand and to look for like long-term projects and start because all this information is free online. Like if you want to set up like anything, you know, even the banks, like most banks have like these blogs that you can read. There's like little articles, and they literally tell you, for example, like they give you like lists of like tax write-offs, like all the trends, what are the benefits of having a trust fund, and blah blah blah. Like they freaking tell you everything. But because most people are in survival mode, first of all, they're not even seeking that knowledge, and they're just not in that space where they can relax and just read about this and be open to change and setting up, you know, their future and their children's future. It takes a lot of mental strength. Like obviously anyone can like overcome this. I'm not saying like, oh, you're in survival mode, then you can't do anything. Like of course you can do it. It just requires more energy, and it requires you to self-regulate your nervous system. Oh my god, that's so crazy. There's like fireworks right in front of me, like so randomly. That's so bizarre. Like there isn't any like special occasion. That's so cool. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. So I think this situation, this transition is an opportunity to learn how to self-regulate. That's like the first thing. We want to have a regulated nervous system. We can do like slow breath work. We can do these somatic exercises to release trauma, especially in the hips, right? We can, you know, make sure we have all the minerals that our body needs. We can get a few things on Amazon, like some gold flakes that we can drink, or all the minerals, just so our brain feels more clear. You know, we're less like in a brain fog. Anyway, whatever works for you. And then, of course, we want to get into the knowledge, and we want to find ways to, especially with like social media and the internet, like there is literally no excuse for someone to have multiple online businesses. Like, of course, you want to build them like once at a time. Like, you don't want to build like 10 businesses all at once and like go crazy. But you can do it once at a time, and you can just automate it like for the next 6 months. So you can still work at the 9 to 5, and at least your business is still running and operating 24/7, you know, across the globe. Like that's how, you know, that's a lot of freedom, by the way. Like people don't realize that. And I think this situation is an opportunity to become more financially literate, because there's always things to learn. You know, no one is like, I mean, unless you're like a tax like fiscalist, like no one knows everything about everything. So to just get more educated, to become more curious, and to just, of course, associate yourself with people with that knowledge, or to hang out in like circles where people have that knowledge. Like when I onboard or enroll a new provider, sugar daddy, I always make sure that this man has a lot more knowledge than me, especially when it comes to these things. And every single one of them has a trust fund. Like every single one of them has been like teaching me about this, and I let them like teach me stuff, even though they tell me stuff that I already know, and I'm like, okay, whatever, in my head, but I always give them this like impression or illusion that, you know, they're teaching me something, which is what keeps me paid. And they want to give me more information, and I don't know, it just makes them feel good. So because they feel good, they want to, you know, give me more offerings. So yeah, that's basically my perspective on that. And of course, I'm like against the whole like social credit thing. I think that's controlling to like tell someone like, yep, you've spent like way too much money on that specific thing, so we're gonna like block your card, or we're gonna make sure that your car doesn't start, your electric car. Like, that's so fucked up. Like, and apparently that's how it is in China or in North Korea. It is so messed up. Like, oh my god, I'm gonna keep doing my manifestation rituals to make sure that this doesn't come here in North America, because I am not gonna deal with that. Like, that for me, that's it. Like, that's the threshold. I don't want to, like, you know, that's my limit. That's my personal boundary, personal limit. I do not want to get anything under my skin, like these little like chip. No effing way. I don't want someone tracking me. Like, this is so bizarre. This is already something they can do with our phones. Can you imagine if it's like under your arm? Like, no. I'm not getting any chips. I'm not getting any social credit. This is so messed up. If I have to, I'm going to move with my baby and my cats. We're going to find a place where they don't have that, because I'm not dealing with that. And of course, there's going to be countries and states that are going to be standing up against that. Trust me. Like, no one is like 100% like in with that. They're not. There are states that are already creating these like bills and laws to make sure that, for example, things don't happen like back in 2020. So like, we just have to, once again, to be educated and to research and to make sure that we're doing what's best for us. All right, so that's it for today's episode. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you tomorrow.